Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu was-salam ala ashraf al-anbiya wal-mursaleen. Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Wa min istana bi sunnati ila yawmiddin. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Chicago. I'm a lifelong resident of Chicago, born and raised here. And like the governor said, I'm very happy that Chicago is the place chosen for the Mass ICNA convention again. This is the 12th annual convention, and the theme is Building a Renaissance, brick by brick. Last year we had a theme that was talking about towards a renaissance, and this year it is about building that renaissance. My name is Karen Danielson, and I am currently the Public Affairs, Civic Engagement, and Outreach Director for the Muslim American Society Chicago chapter. I also serve here in the Council of Islamic Organizations of Greater Chicago's Executive Board. One more thing I'd like to mention, I'm the first Muslim accepted into the Oak Lawn Clergy and Religious Workers Association. Irregardless of what some people must say or think, our collective gathering here at the 12th Annual Mass ICNA Convention indicates that we have gathered for the love of Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are meeting in obedience to Allah. You are the best of the nations raised up for the benefit of man. You enjoin what is right and you forbid what is evil, and you believe in Allah. So we are an ummah, a collective that has united in God's message to mankind. So we ask, may our hearts be strengthened. May our affection for one another be real and lasting. May we forever be guided. May our hearts be comforted with an increase of faith and iman. May our hearts learn complete trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I have been given the honor to introduce to you our next speaker at this 12th annual convention. And the title of this lecture is the same title as the entire theme of the convention, Building a Renaissance Brick by Brick. I've been asked to moderate, facilitate the subject and the speaker, which I will humbly comply with. As I mentioned, last year's theme was Toward a Renaissance, and this year's theme is Building a Renaissance. All sorts of metaphors began to pop into my head, building and bricks and things, that I began to think of my time that I spent living in Palestine and the time that I spent living in Jordan. And something came into my mind. I was thinking, of course, what are we trying to accomplish with this topic? We are trying to accomplish a stronger community that is built soundly with a good foundation. And we have strong pillars to hold up all that which is built upon that foundation. Not just walls, but levels upon these pillars that are upon that foundation. And we have Islam and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as our foundation, that strong foundation. So as I said, I was thinking about living overseas, and I sort of naively thought how messy some of the buildings are there. You know, if you have been into the Middle East, particularly Palestine or Jordan, you may see buildings half-built. And the cement pillars of those buildings have the rebar sticking up, jutting out, looking sort of, I don't know, unattractive. So I was told, after I said it's not very nice looking, that those rebars are sticking up out of these pillars because they're there to help build the next level, the next floor. And I heard how necessary these protruding rebars are. But I also heard how dangerous they are. So I'm going into a kind of a deep metaphor now. Dangerous, especially if there's adjacent buildings that are much taller. And I'm thinking maybe, perhaps, if somebody fell and they were pierced by those rebars. Of course, God forbid anything like that would happen, but that got me thinking. We're building pillars in our community. And some of our pillars are growing up in different places around this country. Some institutions and some individuals are growing strong, and they're rising up so high. And they're achieving some great achievements, and they're growing right out of that great foundation that we know of as God's message and the teachings of the Prophet, alayhi salatu salam. And I'm going to get back to the metaphor of these pillars and building around them. But we had better build up these pillars in such a way that they rise together, so that we don't have this sort of lopsided pillar building throughout the country. On one part of the U.S., maybe the eastern seaboard, we have a great established work. Maybe in the Midwest, something else. Maybe not so much in other parts of the country. So we have high levels and low levels of achievement, it's institutional building and such. And so I'm hoping that the work of these great pillars would be surrounded not by dwarfed efforts, but that they would be surrounded by equal efforts that can rise up to bring our Islamic community to a platform together. Because we all know that if you have one pillar that's higher than the other, maybe a large pillar, a small pillar, and another large, and you try to build a platform across, it's going to crush and fall in the middle. And so I'm not trying to dwarf the great works that our scholars and our institutions are doing. Rather, I'm trying to recommend that there be a hand to lift up all of the pillars together, all of the work, and to find a way to connect. So our goals in building this renaissance should be to grow together, pacing our progress together, stabilizing each level, not holding back, but supporting one another, and connecting the rooms of these pillars that are our work. I know a woman, Reverend Willie Barrow. She's in her 80s, maybe she's past 90 now. She was walking alongside Martin Luther in the 60s for the civil rights movement. She's continued her work with Jesse Jackson in the Rainbow Push and the Bread Basket organizations here in Chicago. So Reverend Willie Barrow, I had the opportunity to work with her about 10 years ago. And she said something to me one day, and of course it was in the interfaith realm, but she said something that's very important for all of us. She said, it's not that we are ununited or that we are not together on the same issues, but we are disconnected. So let's connect. And this is one of the great achievements that MAS and ICNA together are trying to do. You heard some of the leadership speaking in the last inaugural speeches about 40 and 40 coming up together, 40 chapters of ICNA and 40 chapters of MAS coming up together. And that's why I love this organization, MAS, because you and me and the brother or sister who's sitting next to you, we all become part of the structure that houses a lot of great work, that starts at the foundation and at the grassroots level, And the mortar, you all know what mortar is. It's the cement that goes in between the bricks. It's what binds the bricks together. That mortar is tarbiyah, the tarbiyah of Islam. The comprehensive development of people is the cornerstone of Mass and ICNA's methodologies. The mortar is the binding agent keeping us connected. And by the way, ask any bricklayer, and he will tell you, you can't just use any kind of cement in between the bricks. It has to be a certain kind of texture and a certain kind of consistency to help make the whole stay. And that's what we are blessed with. We are blessed with that tarbiyah of the religion of Islam. So we have the foundation, Islam, and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. We have many great pillars, like our next speaker. We are enough bricks right here in this room. Well, at least we're a great sampling of the bricks that are out there to build these rooms that surround these pillars, that become institutions, that become the houses of great activity and validation for Islam in America. Even with all the sacrifices that each of you made to come here tonight, the difficulties and the hardships that our own ummah is suffering today, right now, we were still able to pretty much fill this room. And I'll bet you as the conference goes on, every seat will be filled. Well, I'm not really a betting person, but we did not get here, you know, just by ourselves. We did make the sacrifices, but it is Allah that gathered us here today. And Allah is sufficient for us. So we don't have to fear what is in front of us. We just have to work towards it. Enough of my mediocre, even ordinary metaphor. The topic at hand, Islamic revival with all of its promising signs and precursors worldwide, we cannot forget to open our eyes and really see where the need is for improvement, especially in the way we understand Islam. Today is the day of Sheikh Google, and anyone out there can define Islam for us. Some are even attempting to force it to evolve, claiming that it needs to meet today's standards and today's expectations. Well, it wouldn't have survived over 1,400 years if it needed to evolve or to change. But let's let our next speaker talk about the intellectual features of this new Renaissance. Same Islam, but new Renaissance. How to strike the balance between valuing the legacy and developing the ability for inclusiveness and coexistence, not only globally, but right here in America as well. Tonight's main speaker has always fascinated me, not only for who he is, where he comes from, his family relations, but what he writes about and how he writes it, what he does and how he does it, because I'm a little bit of an academic myself, or I like to think so, but also what he says and how he says it, and I don't mean that French-Swiss accent. Tariq Ramadan is professor of contemporary Islamic studies at the Oxford University Oriental Institute, St. Anthony's College. He also teaches at Oxford Faculty of Theology. He is visiting professor at the Faculty of Islamic Studies, Qatar, and the University of Malaysia, Perlis. He is senior research fellow at Doisha. My son is going to kill me who's learning Japanese. I probably pronounced that wrong. But Doisha in Kyoto, Japan. And he is the director of Research Center of Islamic Legislation and Ethics, Doha, Qatar. He holds an MA in philosophy and French literature and a PhD in Arabic and Islamic studies from the University of Geneva. In Cairo, Egypt, he received one-on-one intensive training in classic Islamic scholarship from Al-Azhar University scholars. And he has a Ijazat in 7 disciplines. He is active at the academic and grassroots level on theology, ethics, social justice, ecology, interfaith, as well as intercultural dialogue. He is also the president of the European think tank, European Muslim Network in Brussels. Please go to the massconvention.org website and look up his full biography. It's amazing. He is also the author of many books, including my favorite, What I Believe, which is about how he speaks to us. He speaks frankly and openly with the reader, and that reader can be from any walk of life, Muslim or somebody of another faith. Please help me welcome to the podium Dr. Tariq Ramadan.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أيتها الأخوات أيها الإخوة أحييكم بتحية الإسلام تحية من عند الله مباركة طيبة السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thank you so much, Sister Karen, for not only your introduction, but I think that what you said about some of the issues and what we have to do and the way we have to think about our presence and think about the Renaissance that we are talking about are critical thoughts and important for all of us. The title of this evening is the title of the convention, and in 30-35 minutes it's a bit difficult to come to all the dimensions. So take this as an introduction, and at the same time what I heard this morning is already coming from many speakers and many people, the substance of things that we have to think about as Muslims and for you as American Muslims living in this context, understanding the challenges within your society. Now, if we come to the title and we try to understand the meaning of Renaissance, by the way, it's not the first time that we have it in the Islamic history. We know what it means in the Western history. It has a specific meaning. And in many ways, if you come back to the centuries within the Islamic tradition, you will see many scholars in their time talking about Renaissance or talking about revivification, or talking about tajdeed, or talking about ihya, or talking about islah. These are words that we know are everywhere in our tradition. Now, we should understand what we keep on repeating, but we have to take it for ourselves. When it is said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to send to our community, Allah yab'athu li hadhihi al-umma ala ra'si kulli mi'atin sana man yujaddidu laha dinaha. Allah is sending to this community every century a man or a group of people who are going to renew for this community for its religion and our religion. The understanding was quite clear, is that the Quran is not going to change. We are not reforming Islam, and we are not going to change the authentic ahadith. In fact, what is going to change during the Renaissance, what is central, is the way we are going to read the text, is our understanding of the text. And why it is important to get this, it comes back to us. What is going to make us change in the way we read the scriptural sources, the Quran wa Sunnah? In fact, two main things are going to help us to change. Very simple thing, but they are very important in the way we deal with them. The first one is obvious, it's time. With history, we don't have the same understanding of the text because we don't have the same knowledge of the world, the universe, and the context. So our knowledge is going to bring new understanding in the way we read the text. The text is universal. Okay, they are very nice here. It's the first time I get something like this, take your time. So, okay, you will have me for 3 hours. No. Alhamdulillah, we'll try, because I know that they were struggling with time and with the late arrival of the governor, and it's not in their hand. We'll try to stick to our time and try to keep it as it should be. Now, the point is that with time that we get more knowledge, our mind, our intellect, our understanding are going to change because we are dealing with the same text. The text is universal. Our being is temporal, but temporal within history. So the way we are going to read the text with time is going to change. The second thing which is important is context, is history, is cultures. You always have a viewpoint on the text. The way you read the Quran in the desert is not the same when you read the Quran in Chicago. So the cultural changes are changing our mind, and we get from the text something which is in the text, but we are taking from our viewpoint, which is essential here. The universality of the text is not an eternal text speaking the same to everyone, is an eternal text speaking to everyone wherever he is or she is and whenever he reads or she reads. That's essential. So this understanding of the universality of the message is time and space are pushing us to get this. And with this, there is something which is also very important. It happens even in our life. When you read the Quran, someday you don't read it the same way other days. Why? Because your state of mind, your heart, your psychology is different. And in fact, on the collective level, cultures are shaping psychologies. So we have collective psychologies, and this is giving to the readers a way to read the text in a specific way. So Islam is one. The texts are going to be the same. The readers are changing. The knowledge is changing. The in-depth of this knowledge is going to move. So for us, Renaissance means, if we are serious about this, if you understand the very meaning of Tajdid al-Fahm, the renewal of our understanding, is we have to take seriously where we are, who we are when we read. It's a call for responsibility. You are responsible of the reading of the sources where you are when you live. And this is sending back to the community, be careful. Because if you don't read the Quran the way it should be, don't ask Saudi Arabia to give you an answer. The problem is you, it's not them. No clapping, no clapping. It's a call for responsibility. You are not clapping something which is good for you. It's something which is heavy. Inna sanulqi alayka qawlan thaqila means these are heavy words for you, and you have to take responsibility. No one is going to do the job in the United States of America if they are not American Muslims here doing the job. Getting it right. Renaissance here start with the understanding of your text, the scriptural sources, with, of course, the context within which you live in the United States. Second thing, there is something also that is eternal. Wherever you go, understanding Islam means that you understand two things, two main messages. Know Islam if you don't understand that the very essence of Islam is about educate yourself and reform yourself. It's about reforming the self. That's wherever you are. Wherever you are, if you don't get this from Islam, there is something wrong. And this morning when I was listening to speakers, when they are talking about al-akhlaq, when they are talking about what the Prophet, peace be upon him, والسلام, was saying, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِيُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمِ الْأَخْلَاقِ, I was sent by to complete, to achieve the good character, means you Muslims, you read the text, you change yourself. That's it. That's the mission and the individual mission. This is a big responsibility. So this is the second responsibility. First, acknowledge the fact that you read the Quran here, that you have the responsibility to understand it here and to change your life here and now and in this society. No excuses. You cannot apologize. Oh, you know what? They don't like Islam. So what? So what? The Prophet ﷺ, in his family, in his community, in his society, was rejected. Are you expecting that the people who don't know Islam are welcoming you now? No. The jihad is first understand your responsibility and know what you have to do. The second side of Islam and this message is reform yourself and reform the world. Change the world. Make it better. Wherever you are, any American Muslim who is dying in the United States of America and don't make this society better tomorrow than today is not fulfilling the duty of being a Muslim in the United States of America. That's as simple as that. This is a duty. This is where Renaissance starts with our understanding of our responsibility. Double responsibility. Or the third dimension of this responsibility when we understand what it means. Now, we understand that in any institution, very often we have vision, mission, and priorities. So this is what we are talking about when we are talking about Renaissance. What is our vision? And our vision as Muslims, if we come back to the scriptural sources, we understand is we want to fulfill and we want to reach the objectives that we know are the universal objective of Islam that are in fact shared universal principles. When we are saying, for example, we want to protect our deen, our religion, our religions, our belief systems, whatever, because la ikraha fi din means that if I want to protect my religion, I want to give the opportunity to anyone to have his or her religion protected. That's la ikraha fi din means lakum dinukum waliya din. I'm not going to impose because this is the will of Allah. وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ لَآمَنَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كُلُّهُمْ جَمِيعًا أَفَأَنْتَ تُكْرِهُ النَّاسَ حَتَّى يَكُونُوا مُؤْمِنِينَ. That's the point. If God had willed, everybody would have followed his message, the message of the Prophet ﷺ. So you are not here to impose. You are here to show what the message is doing with you. Now let the people be free. Their way, it's between them and Allah. It's none of your business. That's the message. That's the point where Muslims, we come with this understanding. We come with this understanding, say my vision is to achieve and to fulfill the principles. So it's about protecting a deen, protecting the self, the personal and the human integrity, protecting the 5 main principles that we know, but more than that, it's about justice, al-adl, al-qist, it's about freedom, al-hurriya. All these objectives are part of what we have to achieve in this society. So our vision is about this. This is what we want to achieve. And then our mission is to be witnesses, because this has been repeated and repeated and repeated again and again in this convention and before. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ. So you have to bear witness to the message before people. So we know the vision, we know the mission, not the problem in our Renaissance is the priorities. And very often we are mixing the priorities because we don't have a clear vision and we don't know exactly what we want to achieve. We don't even know in our understanding of Islam what comes first and what is less important. Sometimes we put things that are secondary at the first place because we are attacked on secondary issues. So we are in fact distracted from the essence of our religion, because some people, they point out or they are showing or they are attacking you on secondary issues. And we are completely lost in the way we respond. By not knowing who we are in fact misled in the way we respond to people who want to know who we are. So we respond much more about what could please them, what they are expecting from them, than what we want to tell them. So we have to get through an intellectual revolution and come back to our understanding. Now, there are things that we have to start with that are very important. And as we have been repeating, this is very much about coming back to the sources. The Quran was Sunnah are our main references. And this is where we come with our understanding in this society at that, in this period of time, and we are trying to get an understanding of Al-Quran was Sunnah for us now. But, and this is where I urge you, young American Muslims and not so young American Muslims, don't dismiss, don't underestimate Turath, the Islamic tradition, the great scholars, the big thinkers that we had before. Why? Because if you come back to them and you try to understand the way they were reading the scriptural sources in their context, what they were extracting, you can get lots of food for thought, lots of understanding, different dimensions, in depth in the way we read the Quran and the Sunnah. Don't be so modern that you are dismissing the Islamic tradition, a long history of thinkers, ulama, shuyukh, who gave us so much. And be careful with these voices today who are telling you, you know what, for the American Muslims, the people who are going to give you the good thinking are only converts. That's not true. Converts could give a lot, but they would never dismiss the world and the work that has been done by scholars in the past, coming from Turkey, coming from the Arab world, coming from Asia, coming from Africa. We are not a religion for converts in America. We are a universal religion taking from everyone, anyone, as long as she or he gives good thoughts and help us to think better. We don't have this kind of nationalism. We don't have, no, I'm sorry. There are some converts, they don't really understand even America. And when they become Muslims, sometimes they are forgetting their past. They are forgetting their culture. And we have some good Muslims. They came here. They were raised here. They are dealing with here, and they are trying to understand this society better. No one has the monopoly of understanding the context. Be humble in the way you deal with that. Be humble in the way you deal with the context, with the text. Take from the tradition, take from Islam, take from the scriptural sources, take from the ulama, and listen to the shuyukh. And even if you don't like a sheikh, because we have a problem with our conventions. Very often you are sitting when you like the speaker. Who told you that you need to like the speaker to get good thoughts, interesting thoughts? Sometimes you go, you sit, you don't know him or you don't know her or you don't maybe like him or her, and sometimes he is telling you things that you can take. It's not a fashion. We are not having this, conventions and entertainment around thoughts. No, this is deep and this is important. Seek knowledge, and sometimes from people you don't know, and sometimes from people you might have heard about them, but never listened to them. Don't judge anybody when you haven't taken time to listen to him or her. This is the starting point of someone who is dealing with knowledge. Now, I don't know, I'm lost with the time. Okay, so what I was saying here is the first thing that we have to do is to take from the scriptural sources and the Torah, the tradition, and we need to understand something, that in the first dimension of this Renaissance, we need to come back to very simple thing in the way we deal with ourselves. And in the way we deal with ourselves, the universal, intimate message of Islam is telling us something. In the way you are going to deal with your mission, in the way you are going to deal with this big vision, the starting point of everything in Islam, when it comes to you, is first, get the right understanding of Islam. And the right understanding of Islam is based on the right understanding of Tawheed, La ilaha illallah. And La ilaha illallah gives us the right understanding of freedom, what it means to be free. Free yourself from your ego, free yourself from all the temptations, So be responsible with your own self. But to do this, and to get this renaissance, intimate renaissance first, you always have to start with something that I heard many times here, which is be positive with yourself. Know that, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying something, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, God does not ask anybody to do more than what she or he can do. It means you can do it. Be positive. Start with this reform of the self by being positive with you and knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never expect from you more than what you can do. And if He's asking us, educate yourself, come back to me, it means you can do it. So anyone who is saying, Allah doesn't love me, that Allah left me alone, that's in your mind. This is a self-protection. That's not the reality. That's not the reality. You come to Allah walking, He comes to you running. That's the point, which has to be with anything, is be positive. On the individual level, this is the starting point of everything which has to do with reforming the self. And the point here is that what we need when we come back to ourselves is three things. Yes, there are rules, and we have to stick to the rules. Buniya al-Islamu ala khamsin, we know what it means, but the rules are clear. The meaning of Tawheed, the fact that we have to pray 5 times a day, the fact that we are fasting, the fact that we are giving zakat. We need to take this seriously. These rules are important because they shape our personality. But at the same time, what is said is, be careful. All these rules, you should keep them with the objectives. And the objectives is, you pray to remember God. You give zakat to remember God and to help the poor. You fast to remember God and to help the poor. Everything has a meaning. Everything you do. And every time you pray, the very understanding of taqwa wa khushu' is always to bring this meaning. So we have to reconcile our principles, our rituals, our practice with the meanings, always. And remembering this has to be visible in what? In the way we behave. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Prophet ﷺ as a model, as an example. And what we understand is that the best among us is the one who has taqwa, this God consciousness. And how is it going to be visible? But the way we behave. As it was said this morning by many of the speakers, is the way we behave the visible side of Islam. So a Muslim, to get his own renaissance, intimate renaissance, is rules, objectives, and akhlaq, ethics, behavior, good character. This is where we understand that we have to be involved in this. Why am I saying this? Because if we don't get that as Muslims living in the United States, we will not be able to understand what will be our contribution to the society. First is start at that level, this spiritual dimension where take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Take time with your heart. Take time with your mind. Take time with your body. Take time to ponder. Okay. It's going very fast. Anyway, so this dimension, it's important when it comes to the self. But what we also should understand, which help us to get this vision when it comes to the way we have to be involved within the society. We should always start with a sense of responsibility. It means don't be childish. Avoid anything in the Islamic discourse which is not based on responsibility and just, something which is do good, it's simple. No, life is complicated. Don't be childish and try to understand your responsibility as Muslims. And we should listen to this. وَلْتَنْزُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدٍ. Every one of us should think about what he or she is preparing for tomorrow, meaning for his or her death. Meaning this is our responsibility. We cannot start with being childish. We have to be committed. We have to be committed. We have to be positive, but at the same time we have to be demanding. Look at the Prophet ﷺ. He was always full of forgiveness, but very demanding with himself. Demanding is not to be judgmental. It's not to be negative. Demanding means I want to achieve this. I have the means to do it. It's the opposite. Demanding with being positive, not demanding and being negative and judgmental with your own self. And when you start like this, you understand that you can change your life in this way, and understand something, that you have to learn something, which is to be autonomous. We are always in need of Allah, always in need of brothers and sisters helping us, but autonomy means I can think by myself, I should act by myself, I have the means to change myself. So this is the starting point of everything. And if I may, I'm sorry, I don't have much time and enough time to go to all the points that I wanted to make, but understanding this comes our responsibility in this time of globalization. And in time of globalization, in fact, we have a global duty. And the global duty is get it right wherever we are. And for you in the United States of America, you have at the local level, at the individual level, to be committed to make this vision global, starting with our local situations, here and there, as I was saying. And it means, very quickly, we have to build mosques. And when we build mosques, wherever we build mosques, we are sending a message. The message is, we are at home here. These are our countries. We are at home in the United States of America. And we are going to pray here, meaning we are saying here, La ilaha illallah, and we are at home. But it's not over. Then we have to pay zakat. And the zakat, the very essence of zakat is, look at the people around you. Min aghniyaihim ila fuqaraihim, here. So you have to look at the people, Muslims, when it comes to zakat, and non-Muslims when it comes to sadaqah, here. You have a responsibility to show that your practice, the way you perform your rituals here, means that you look after the people, you care about the people here. And this is where we speak about zakat. And when we are fasting, you are not fasting in Saudi Arabia, you are not fasting in Egypt, you are not fasting in Syria or in Pakistan. You are fasting in the United States of America. And here you have to send the message that you are not going to buy, the consumerist society, and you are not going to deal with it in the way it is. You have a message, and the way you fast should be a teaching, a message that you are sending around in this society. Now, just to conclude, this is the way we have to contribute. But two things that I have to say. Our renaissance is twofold. We have to struggle within. And let me tell you something. We are not going to preach and we are not going to teach anything to the people if we are not starting our renaissance by being critical within. And critical within means that we have to deal with a very simple understanding. The path of Sharia. ثم جعلناك على شريعة من الأمر فاتبعها. The path of Sharia, this path that we are following, is very broad. And there are many ways of walking within the limitation of Sharia. The first thing that we have to do within is to be respectful of the accepted diversity within Islam. You don't have the monopoly of the right interpretations. As long as someone is not going beyond what is accepted in Islam, we are Muslims and we accept each other. This diversity is the starting point. So we are from different madhahib, we are Sufi, we are Salafi, and be careful. Don't start by being very quick in judging the people, oh, you are an extremist, or you are C, or you are that, or no, that's wrong. As Muslims, we should deal with this accepted diversity in Islam. The great scholars of the past, and the Prophet ﷺ was dealing with diversity. We have to do this. We have also to understand that Shia and Sunni, we are Muslims. We are going to disagree on many things. We are even going to disagree on political issues, but no one has the right to put a Shia and a Sunni outside Islam. That's first, it's not of your business. It has to be done at a level when we know what we are talking about. So let me finish by saying this, that this dimension within, and not only this, we have a problem of racism within. We have a problem where we don't talk enough to one another, coming from Pakistan, from the Arab world, from the black community in this country. You are not going to change America as Muslims if you don't get it right. The future of the Muslims in this society is Asian, Arabs, black, African American together in the name of Islam, and not something which is we have the monopoly as converts, we have the monopoly as Arabs. They don't understand Islam because or they don't understand America because we are African American. That's not going to work like that. We need to be self-critical. We have a problem of racism. We have another problem. Let me put it right now, which is also something which is, look at our mosques, look at our institutions. And this is why I asked the sister Karen to take her time. We need sisters. We need women now to be much more vocal and at the forefront. No. That's the point. That's the point, that in this society in the United States, the role of women is going to be critical here and for the world. So let me be clear on this, that the Renaissance is also to be self-critical. And the last point that I wanted to make is our contribution in the States is, please stop as Muslims to speak only when we are talking about Islam. Be everywhere when it comes to education, when it comes to solidarity, when it comes to social justice, when it comes to civil rights movement, when it comes to anything which has to do with our presence as Muslims and citizens, we have to be involved. Our contribution is this. And be careful as well. Last point. Don't to be colonized by what is happening. Because, you know, we have to Islamize the goals, not only the means. And some are now Islamizing the way we dress, but we want exactly the same fashion. In the way we want to please, we want to get this attraction. I'm sorry, if you wear the headscarf, it means something. To know the meaning of modesty. The meaning of modesty is not to attract in other ways and to make your headscarf as a new fashion. Be careful. This is colonizing the ants. No. Why are you clapping? It's a very serious issue here. The same, because here I'm talking about women, but it's the same with men. I have the same problem with some of our brothers. They are working in some enterprises, in some businesses. They want to make the same money, but halal benefit, halal perception. We are not only Islamizing the means, we should be clear on the goals, the purposes, and our contribution in the United States of America, less consumerism, less look, less fashion, more meaning, more objective, and more dignity. This is the way you are going to help your brothers and sisters in the Muslim majority countries, because get it right, you American Muslims, for the first time in history, at that level, it might be that your experience in America, our experience in Europe, at what is perceived as the periphery, will have a tremendous impact on what is happening in the Muslim majority countries. We have a very important responsibility, a critical responsibility. What is going to be the future of Islam is not going to come only from the center. It's going to come from the periphery. And you know what? It might be that the periphery is also the center. Wallahu a'lam wa a'la wa ahkam, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I'm sorry.